Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. It has come to the point where if you don't have Isaac Guerendo, you aren't watching the show, and we can make that determination. We don't have a video ready for Isaac Guerendo. I've got to make that. But Guerendonites unite because Isaac Guerendo is about to win leagues. If you haven't heard, Christian McCaffrey done for the season. He's out 6 weeks. Jordan Mason done for the season, out with an ankle injury on IR. Guerendo is now the lone starter in the San Francisco backfield. The part 2 of the win a league Guerendo Mason handcuffing situation is in full effect, and now there's no competition, no question. It is Isaac Guerendo season. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now. File on in.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday,
8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
It's amazing, to be honest with you. Your boy's still getting over the pandemic. I have to admit, I'm going to probably lose energy really quickly, but I'm amped up right now. I'm ready to go. We've got just absolutely crazy news. You just heard me say it, but Mason out for the season with the ankle on IR. Christian McCaffrey out 6 weeks with the PCL tear. He will not require surgery, Christian McCaffrey, but he will be out 6 weeks. He injured the knee on the play previous to the one where it looks like, and as I warned in the video, that the vantage point, the angle of that one play where he went down looks like his calf shimmies on the opposite leg. That was just his leg, probably his whole body buckling as he was deciding to take a slide, because the other knee he injured on the previous play when his knee planted into the ground. And when your knee plants into the ground, or you get hit right here and the knee, the joint, the top joint goes over, it can pull that PCL and tear it. You typically don't tear a PCL in half. You tear an ACL in half very easily. Snap that thing like a rubber band. PCL is a little harder to fully tear. But usually with a between grade 1 and grade 2 tear, which is probably what McCaffrey has most likely, he's going to need about 6 weeks of healing, and eventually he will the tear, the gap inside that torn part of the PCL will fill in with scar tissue, and it'll eventually be strong again. So out 6 weeks, barring some sort of 49er comeback, which I think they're packing it in essentially with the Mason IR situation instead of waiting on that. They're essentially moving forward for 2025. So barring the sort of crazy situation, McCaffrey's done for the season unless the Niners are deep into the playoffs, which isn't likely. Isaac Guerendo is going to get a test drive. The Niners are going to test drive Isaac Guerendo. There's a reason we pulled this board up every single day during the entire offseason. This has not been reordered, so guys can chill. And for anybody that keeps saying, why isn't Monty and Gibbs on here? They're not a cuffing situation. That's why we put these down here, because they're not cuffing situations. Kamara, none of these guys are cuffing situations. These are all cuffing situations. You can't draft Monty and Gibbs, or you couldn't in a comfortable place where one's a cuff. They're standalone players. This has been the cuff board all year long, and we've continued to drive this home that you need both of them. There's a reason I don't just say go get Mason, go get Mason, go get Mason. I say go get Mason and Guerendo. You need the cuff. You need the cuff. The cuff's important. The cuff is what can win you a league. We had Mason get people probably to this point in their fantasy football playoff aspirations because of how well he played, leading the league in so many categories. Mason was an absolute monster and a league winner, and he deserves our standing ovation.
let's go, mashed potatoes!
Thank you, Mason, for all that you did. But now we have part 2 of the Win a League strategy, the win-a-league maneuver, the secret weapon that other people just aren't patient enough. They just don't wait it out. They drop them. How many people in here already? I haven't even read the chat. How many people already have dropped Guerendo? Probably a lot. Oh man, I just dropped them. How many of those questions or comments have been dropped so far? I can only scream so loud. Like I literally did a show on it the other day. I talk about it almost every week. I bring up the cuff board pretty much every single day and have, I don't know, all off season and at least several times every other show. At some point, you had to own them both. You had to own them both. It was the only way to go. Now, Guerendo goes to the moon. Guerendonites unite and let him cook.
Let him cook.
We're still getting over this thing. We're still getting over it. Man, I can't tell you how many teams this helps me in. I'm not trying to wish ill will upon anybody, celebrate injury. That's not why we're here. We are allowed to chew gum and walk at the same time. And if I want to say thank you, Christian McCaffrey, for all you've done. Okay, thank you for all you've done. You've been amazing to the fantasy football world. Your time is, there's no way he's going to ever return to form. Like, for anybody that thinks that Christian McCaffrey in 2025 is going to be back and tearing it up, I got a bridge to sell you. This will be he'll definitely be, they're paying him. He'll definitely be there next year, but he'll be probably injured on and off all year. Would I draft him? We'll have to play that by ear in terms of like ADP. If he drops to like Eckler territory walking into this season, there's a whole different discussion, like what's his value going to be? What's the cost of entry? Cost of entry is everything. Cost of entry is everything when it comes down to like an injured Christian McCaffrey, drafting him in 2025. But this is going to be a tryout for Guerendo. Mason, who knows where Mason will be next year if he's even in San Francisco. So we'll have to play that by ear. Jordan Mason, right here. Mason will be a restricted free agent next offseason, but could end up playing for another team in 2025 if the Niners don't match a qualifying offer. Here's the other thing you got to think about. Okay, and this came from my boy Raj. This is what you got to think about. They don't want Mason to get a high offer because the Niners have to match whatever offer somebody throws at Mason. So if Mason finishes the entire season on a tear, like he has an ankle injury, they're going to put him on IR and sit him for the rest of the year. Seems a little bit almost premature. Does it not? Does it not? So it's crazy that all of a sudden he's on IR. It's because they don't want him to cost more. If they're not going to win anyway, they're just putting him. So we got to be careful thinking that Guerendo is the bona fide, absolute locked-in future of this rushing attack. He might not be. He's going to get tried out, and we'll see what he does. Okay, we'll see how he plays. I think he's going to play pretty well. He's a league winner. He's a league winner. We called it. He's a league winner. We told you. We told you. We told you.
Let him cook.
We told you. But they really are probably sitting Mason the entire year so his price tag doesn't go up. They know they can't win. They don't want someone coming in and as a restricted free agent offering him a ton of money. It makes a lot of sense. The Niners do this stuff all the time. The Niners do this stuff all the time. So, Guerendo season's in full effect. I can't wait. I think it's going to be magical. This guy's a 4.3 running back. He's got tremendous burst, great speed. working on his vision, going to be, given a boatload of opportunity to prove himself, and it's going to be a special next couple weeks. But it doesn't mean anything guaranteed wise for 2025, 2026. He's a young kid. If he impresses and McCaffrey can't stay healthy, let's say McCaffrey can't get ready. Let's say Mason doesn't stay. Let's say the Niners are too worried about all the money they got tied up in probably a new Brock Purdy contract, which will not sniff the $60 million mark like a lot of people were projecting. It's got to be in the low 50s, and even that is going to be a tall order for a team that's wasted tons of money on Ayuk, who I don't even know has his job sitting there yet, unless they deal Debo, which I think they probably will. Debo is probably gone in 2025. I don't think he's a Niner. I think he should be a Buffalo Bill. I think that's where he wanted to. I think that's where he was destined to go on draft day, but it all unfolded. I don't know that the Niners want to trade Debo to the Buffalo Bills, but here's the thing about trading a player somewhere. When people say, why would they send him somewhere? If someone's making a trade, they're trying to win the trade. Okay, so you're never really, or should be never worried about where you're sending a player. Interdivision, they'll never trade interdivision. If I'm making a trade with somebody in my fantasy league, interdivision, or the person I'm playing next week, am I worried about giving them something? And maybe I shouldn't do that. If I am, that means I'm giving up a bad deal for me because I'm losing. If I'm trading with somebody, I feel like I'm winning. Therefore, I don't care who it is. In fact, I'd rather it be my division opponent. So if you think Debo's sellable, if he's washed goods, if you think he's no longer going to be serviceable to the degree that the Bills might think they are, if the Bills are the team trying, this is all hypothetical, then you don't care. If Debo's going to make you regret trading him, then you don't trade him. It's that simple. I don't want to hear it. It's that simple. If they trade Debo, they don't believe in Debo anymore. And maybe we don't either. And we'll have to address that. Debo is absolutely playing like trash. Milk carton stuff. But the entire team is. So it's like, how do you know where to put the blame? Is it really Debo? What's Jennings been doing? What's Purdy been doing? What did Kittle do? One reception in week 13 last week. One reception. So is it really Debo? Doesn't really matter, right? Because Debo's not producing. Doesn't really matter, right? Brock's not producing. Doesn't really matter that Jennings isn't producing. They aren't producing. Fantasy-wise, we react. But the question is Debo really the problem? And if Debo goes to Buffalo, let's say hypothetically, it's just my hypothetical, maybe he's not a problem anymore. Maybe he has another great year left in a situation where Josh Allen could just dump off to him on the line of scrimmage and use him as a running back, in a sense, doing what Debo does best, the yak yardage. Debo's good, okay? We can make fun of him. We can say he's trash. We can say he's washed. He is, from a fantasy perspective right now in his situation. You can't separate situation from player. But he will probably be elsewhere. We'll have to make the judgment based on his ADP, just like Christian McCaffrey's, where we value him in 2025 at his new 2025 cost of entry. All of it needs to be redigested. We can't just say blanket things like, Debo's trash, I'll never draft him again. Or even Christian McCaffrey, I'll never draft Christian McCaffrey next year. We probably won't if the expectation's high. But if McCaffrey's going for what Austin Eckler cost walking into 2024, of course we would take a gamble. It's practically free. I don't think he'll cost that low. I think Christian McCaffrey probably goes in the second round. I don't know. I think there are people that believe he's got another 2 or 3 years left because people are wild. He takes care of his body. Don't you see how he does? He works himself into the ground. There's been no higher percentage of a team's offense, I think, really ever than Christian McCaffrey for his 2 teams that he's played for. Christian McCaffrey has taken a beating more than anybody. Let's hit these 2 super chats, and then I'm going to open the phone lines real briefly. TM42, Smitty has called the San Francisco running back situation all season. Thank you, TM42. I also feel like I've called the entire Niners season to a T, the entire way. From the very beginning, before the NFL draft, to the way that they were going to, I predicted to handle the Brandon Ayuk situation, how the fan base loved Brandon Ayuk. He was their beloved Ayuk. No one had thought a single bad thing about this guy. He was an absolute gem. What a sweetheart. What a little sweetheart. Little pumpkin pie. Little pumpkin pie, Brandon Ayuk. We love him. He's so wonderful. We'll never give. I went on Raj's live stream and I said, I swear, I wish someone could, he doesn't post his lives, but I wish he did because we could find it. I swear I said something almost verbatim to this. I said that, mark my words, the way your fan base reacted to Debo, you're going to react worse to Ayuk because he comes off more smug. He's very introverted kind of when you talk to him, and he's going to come off smug. And as the thing progresses and the Niners drag everything out, it's going to get worse. It's going to unravel. We've called this thing from the beginning. But this running back stable here, as we've said all offseason long, has league-winning capability. I can't guarantee you that Guerendo has tremendous success and plays like a top 6 to 10 running back, but there's a real good shot that he does. There's a really good shot that they really test him out and they see what they have in him. They have no risk of losing him. They have risk of losing Mason, which is why I believe that they put him on IR. They don't want to risk losing Mason. He's a restricted free agent that could take an offer, or an offer could be sent over in Mason's direction, landing on his doorstep, and the Niners have to match it. So they don't want to make Mason look any better than he has already looked. So they put him on the shelf. This is typical Niner stuff. It's dirty. It's absolutely dirty. You can say it's not, but they are. I've even talked to former Niner players on the live streams we've done on IG, where we've talked about how the Niners will bench a player or not give player carries so they don't hit certain yardage totals to get bonuses. That's notorious for the Niners. The Niners absolutely screwing Mason, in my opinion. Now we'll find out. Maybe Mason's injury is worse than we even thought. Maybe we find. I don't really know the details of his ankle injury. Mason, Christian McCaffrey, knee, both landed on injured reserve, paving the way for Isaac Guerendo league winning. Who said that? We did. Who told you? We told you. We told you.
Let him cook.
Take a big lap. We don't need your hate mask coming back now. Take a big lap. Take one and you don't come back.
So, again, there's a possibility Mason's ankle was that bad. But it seems like it's kind of like, I don't know, my best example is this, okay? I run my head right into the wall right now, just full force into the wall. And you say, okay, that's probably going to be about 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. And then Mason, ow, 4 weeks. Doesn't it feel like they're in the same predicament? McCaffrey's is way worse, but they're just going to both put them in the same boat and send them off. Like, we don't know that he needs 4 weeks. Maybe he does. I'm trying to tell you, I don't know the full extent of the ankle injury. I believe they're 100% not wanting to pay the extra amount of money it would cost if they run him out there. He looks amazing in an offer sheet, or a team wants to come as a restricted free agent, attain his services, and the Niners have to match it. That's what's going on. It's what the Niners do. They do it so well. But guess what? We don't care. Why? Because we told you.
Let him cook.
We told you. When we tell you, you better listen. Guerendo Nights, assemble. Video upcoming. I'll try and get it done by the 8 p.m. show. I mean, God. Let's go. Let's go. TM42, appreciate you dropping the super chat, my boy. Barkley for a first and James Cook. No. I'd rather keep Barkley, my boy. Unless it's the 1.1, then we need to probably have another conversation real quick. I'm screwed. Lost Mason. I'm lucky to have Bucky and Mixon, but still no more running backs. Well, Vlad, I've told you all week long to get Guerendo. You know, like, what more can I do? I screamed it all week long to you. All week long. All week long. All week long. All right, briefly.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Yeah, I should have had a Guerendo video waiting. That's on me. That's on me. Can't do everything, bro. I'm in the middle of a pandemic here. Whole house has it now. It's crazy. Bucky's amazing, bro. Bucky is so good. He's so good. 336 caller. Who is this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Smitty. My name's Colin. I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was just wondering what your thoughts are on Jonathan Taylor rest of the season. I know some people are kind of concerned about him, but I was just wondering what your take is.
Colin from North Carolina. All right, hold on. I think he's you know, he's gonna be an injury risk. He's also, you know, situational risk, but I really like JT still. There's always going to be that potential to have that top 5 running back performance out of him. I mean, he's 150 capable any game, bro. You know, like he's just that kind of guy. Now, is it tough to assume what kind of workload he's going to get with AR5 under center? Yeah, but I mean, even last game, 25 carries. That's great. The touchdowns do get vultured, you know, like no touchdown this week, no touchdown last week. I mean, he really didn't have a touchdown since what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games back. But he did have the receiving touchdown. So like, and that was this week. So coming away with only 1 target, 1 reception, 7 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. It's both concerning and not concerning because 1 target, I don't like 1 target. I want more than 1 target out of JT. If we're going to take away a lot of his rushing touchdown opportunities, I would like to see him get more receptions. I don't know that's going to happen. The last 3 games, he's got 2 targets, 0 targets, 1 target. So we do kind of have to, I think, accept that with AR5 under center, obviously he has a bye week here in week 14, but with AR5 under center, we got to expect that he gets 20 carries as they try and make AR5 look efficient, balance the offense out. I think they're doing a great job. Look, Shane Steichen may have botched part of the development of AR5. We have to remember that he is the creator of Jalen Hurts, and what he did with Jalen Hurts was remarkable, and I don't think we should overlook it based on the hiccups that have happened with AR5. What they're doing with AR5 right now is fantastic. What they're doing with AR5 right now is doing what they should have done all year, which is allow the run to help support him not have to put the entire game on his shoulders from the first quarter to the third quarter. I think he is such a remarkable player impromptu when he needs to run and scramble. He is the kind of player that you keep the game close, you help minimize the mistakes, you help support him, you help run the ball, let the run set up everything else. I think he's still got the capability of having, let's say, he's got 3 more games left fantasy-wise, right? Because he's got week 14 bye. So week 15, 16, 17. He's got Denver, that's tough. That might be his like 80, 70-yard game. Tennessee and Giants, those are 2 very good matchups for JT. Rushing-wise, I think he could have 100-yard games in both those games. Maybe 1 touchdown on the year, hopefully 2. That's my expectation. 2 100-yard games, 1.5 TDs rushing, let's say, and then another like 70, 80-yard game.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, so when you think about that Broncos matchup, would you consider benching him for somebody like MHJ if I have Bijan and Bucky as my other two running backs?
Maybe. But let's approach that when we get there. Let's see how MHJ looks, and all that. Let's get to that decision, and then we'll make it. But hard to sit him. All right, later, bro. Appreciate you.
Got it. Thanks.
Farb, and then Donnie, then Ron Navy. Farb, go ahead. You're live.
What up, Smitty? What's the outlook on like Pacheco next week?
There's no real indication that I've seen anyway. I have been a little more down and out than normal, so I could have missed something, believe me. But I feel pretty confident. I think they're gonna keep Hunt involved for sure, just because they like what he provides. They love what Pacheco provides. They kind of do a little bit of something the other one doesn't, in a sense. And the way KC's operating their entire offense, which is just spread the ball around like nobody matters any, one person over the other. I could see it being cloudier than we would like, but Pacheco's so explosive. I still think he's a decent flex. I don't know how consistent he can be in the next handful of weeks. But he definitely could be a guy that you're starting as your flex and you're feeling great about it. But depends on your options, Do you have the MHJ versus Pacheco dilemma? We're going to have to kind of take that game by game.
I know next week I'm going to be stuck between him and Chuba at RB2. Chuba coming off that slow game, kind of the fumble and can't really do anything.
Well, let's keep in mind just a reality check that Tracy had it even worse, that week prior to last week. and Tyrone Tracy came out and did okay, So I think Chuba will probably be fine. He got a contract. I don't think they're dipping on him now. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough, Chuba, we'll have to play it by ear, but Chuba should be okay.
No doubt, man. Playoff time. Feel better. Appreciate
All right, later, bro. Donnie, you're live.
Hey, Smitty.
What's up?
So I lost my tight end, Taysom Hill, the Swiss Army knife, and I had Dempsey on the bench, and he got his own out. So my option and my trade deadline, it got extended. It's going to end next week, or this week, I'm sorry. The options are to either go on the waiver wire and choose Dalton Schultz or Freiermuth, or I trade one of my running backs, which is either Kyron or Gibbs, for a Connor and a John. Would you do that?
I don't think so. I think I'd rather roll with Schultz.
Schultz has an easy schedule.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, I like Jonnu a lot. He's playing out of his mind. And again, shout out to Superfish, who's going to win that bowl prediction challenge above my head, the $50 bowl prediction challenge because of the Jonnu Smith prediction. I definitely am not. Connor's not enough. If you came to me with JT and Jonnu, maybe I would take that gamble. Sure. It's
what about JT and Hawkinson?
Yeah, I could do that. I don't know that I love trading Kyron for that, but I'd do it. I got enough Kyron shares. It also depends on that too. I got enough Kyron shares that I can do that in the league. Yeah, JT and Hawkinson, that's fine. I like that enough to do it in one league, but overall, in a vacuum, I'd rather have Kyron. But in this situation, I think it's okay. It's okay.
You would rather trade Kyron over Gibbs, right?
Yes. Yeah, and that's not a knock on Kyron at all. It's the thing you got to also think about is schedule, but not just schedule, but also what's the likelihood the team is fighting hard for the playoffs? What happens if Kyron gets dinged up at the end of the year? I'm not even talking about right now, things that are in the way right now, but in weeks 15, 16, 17, if Kyron gets banged up and they're out of it, they're going to protect him. Gibbs is on a team that's, you could say they sit starters earlier, but I don't think it's going to affect anything. You can't really plan sometimes this far out for that anyway. But I'm not worried since everybody should be ending in week 17 anyway. If there is some sort of pullback on some players like the Lions players or KC players, it could be like a quarter or something like that. And I think, we've seen Gibbs do amazing things in one quarter, so I'm not ever going to sit him. Even if you told me in week 17 he's sitting the last 10 minutes, I'd be like, I don't care. But then you got to also think about teams like KC and Buffalo, they're still fighting for that one spot. We don't know how long some of these teams will have to fight, even if they're winning. But I'd rather have a player that I think when all things are equal anyway, that's on a winning team, that has something to fight for, that has an amazing offense, everything's clicking. So yeah.
All right, I appreciate it, Smitty.
All right, appreciate you. Later.
Later.
Let me read this one here real quick. Hold on one second, Ron. But Smitty, why would I roster Guerendo when CMC is back? I don't even know what he's even saying. It's a waste of my time.
Take a big lap.
Okay, Ron Navy, you're live.
What's up, Smitty?
What's up?
Well, let me start off by saying that Cousins looks horrible right now.
I did not expect that.
Well, he can't mask it. It is what it is. He does. He looks horrible.
God, I did not expect that this morning. For me, or not this morning, this afternoon. I just woke up about an hour and a half ago, though, because I'm still sleeping the day away. My pandemic.
All right. Yeah, he looked totally horrible. And I tell you what, who was it that we were before the game? Play Walker or the other running back?
Brian Robinson.
I was totally wrong on that one, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Everything I said, I was totally wrong. And I said I thought Cincinnati was going to beat the Steelers. Oh my God, what a high-scoring game that was!
Yeah, you should have just bet on everything opposite you said that day. You would have smashed.
I should.
So the problem though is what happens. It doesn't look like Morris or anybody's thinking that they need to make a switch. I wonder if one more game will do the trick. And there's also a lot of, I don't know if you guys have known this. I've said it before on the show a lot. But Kyle Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins. Loves him. So there's a very strong chance that Kirk Cousins, if available, might be sought after by Shanahan and the Niners, and that will put Brock Purdy in a weird situation. So we'll have to see how that goes. Hey, go ahead. Go ahead.
Motion detected at the front door.
Danny Dimes, right?
Danny Dimes.
Who got him?
Yeah. We'll see what he does if he's called upon. That'll be interesting. But yeah, I hope Penix Jr. gets in there. You know what pisses me off more than anything this entire year is that Penix Jr. hasn't got in there sooner because of what Scott Hansen said he'd do. He'd acknowledge it on the red zone if Penix Jr. came in and even if it was even if it's like week 8 or 9 or 10, because I can't control when Cousins gets hurt or when Cousins plays bad. But if Penix Jr. gets in there and plays like a top 10 quarterback, you shout it out on the red zone or whatever. But he said he'd also come back on the show, during the season and talk about it with us. But I hope that we have enough time for Penix Jr. to do something special. And maybe he won't. It's possible. But I do love him. And I think my preseason QB analysis was pretty solid, given that Caleb was 4th or 5th. I did have Penix Jr. in the top. I think I had him 2 or 3. But that we can't really judge right now because he's never gotten a shot. But JD5, right. Penix Jr., Bo Nix super high on Bo Nix. This channel, this community, super high on Bo Nix. Always had Bo Nix ahead of Caleb Williams, which was laughable walking into the early offseason and post-NFL draft. But Bo Nix is absolutely better than Caleb Williams. I think Caleb, I will say this, I think Caleb is a very talented, physically talented player. Just like Johnny Manziel was. So it doesn't mean or guarantee him anything. But I do believe if they get him the right coaching, there's something there. I don't think it'll ever be what people wanted. It's not going to be worth the number 1 overall pick, which is the greater conversation here. But he definitely could be saved to become a consistent, starter in the National Football League. But I don't know that the Bears have it in them to make the right decisions, clearly, to support him. So they'll probably fail him. And while I like Kingsbury, I think Kingsbury is doing good in Washington. He's doing good and bad in Washington. I think for the most part, you can't complain about what they're doing. They're doing amazing things. A lot of people are like, Kingsbury sucks. Look what they're doing. Like, no one expected any of this but us. I think Kingsbury, I'm 50-50 on what he would do if he went to Chicago, and he's currently the front runner from everything that I know and hear and see. He's the front runner to become the new head coach, which is a debacle when you think about it, because they interviewed him as OC and brushed him off. He wanted to come over and coach his favorite player, because if people don't know, Kingsbury was his quarterback coach at USC. Kingsbury, when Caleb was coming out of college, Kingsbury was at USC as the QB coach. Him and Caleb are like this. They're like family. And so they hired Kingsbury, or they interviewed Kingsbury and brushed him off, and then they hired Eberflus. And then they hired Waldron. So they hired Waldron instead of not Eberflus. I'm sorry. They hired Waldron instead of Kingsbury. Why? Because Eberflus has an ego. And Eberflus, according to reports and things that I trust very much, the reason that they didn't hire Kingsbury is because Waldron was intimidated and didn't like how big of a persona he had. He was intimidating. Similar to why Kyle Shanahan never brings in good DCs, because he's intimidated. Vrabel, remember what GM said all over the league, according to Schefter and Rappaport, undisclosed sources, the reason Vrabel couldn't get any sort of coordinator job was because head coaches were intimidated by him, and that nobody wanted him sitting there underneath just applying pressure so he could come up and take their job. That's how Shanahan thinks.
You know what coaching tree Vrabel comes from, right? Who? What's coaching tree?
Tomlin?
Cowher.
Oh, Cowher, yeah.
Cowher. Tomlin don't have a coaching tree. That's the problem with Tomlin. He doesn't have a coaching tree either, because
Wilson did. I will admit, because I know a lot of you want me to say it, Wilson did cook in that game. I'll admit it.
He did.
I'll admit it.
He still holds on to the ball too long, but I think it was more Wilson, his and I won't talk long about this because I know you hate talking about the Steelers so much, but anyway, I think it was Wilson, not Smith, because their game plan was to run the ball in there. I think when Wilson got in there, I think because of his, he's a veteran and he knows, he called off the run a lot and went to the pass because he recognized what kind of defense they were in, and he took advantage of that. So I think a lot of that had to do with Wilson and not
Smith. I mean, I still think, while I'll say I was, so far, I've been wrong on whether Wilson will survive, and he's more than surviving. Like I said, he wouldn't survive as a starter somehow, but he's done better than that. I still think there's an argument to be made that you'd still be winning with Fields, and you'd still be doing, that's the only thing that we'll never be able to really prove. I mean, Fields was winning. Fields was doing well. So, we'll see. But
well, the thing, too, is when we come to the end of the season and stuff like that, I mean, is Pittsburgh going to want to pay Wilson a bunch of money, especially for his age?
Yes,
keep him, or
they will. If he's, I mean, I guess it depends on how he finishes, but I think if they win let's say a playoff game and then something happens, it's a close, hard-fought battle, whatever, I think Tomlin loves him. It's like his son. Like that's the part that makes me so frustrated is that I just feel like Fields was just never given a shot, and it was clear that he didn't want Fields. And, even when Wilson won that first game, Tomlin was like a kid at a candy store and was like, come on, bro. Like, you didn't ever get that excited when Fields will be. Like, that's the only part that frustrates me. Not that Wilson isn't proving that he's a good fit for this system. He really is. All right, Rod, go ahead. One more thing, and I got to roll through all these.
Well, I was going to mention, because we were talking about, players being held back because, Detroit players and Gibbs and all that, but they still got to play. They still got to play Green Bay, Minnesota again. And those two teams are close to them, so they're going to have to. It's going to be competitive there in the North.
Yeah.
And if Green Bay beats them, they're going to have to play their starters. They're not going to have a choice because it's not the number one seed isn't necessarily
Yeah.
And then right now it's and
all right.
I think San Francisco totally cooked this year. They're done. They're done. They're not. They don't have a chance.
Well, like I said, and yeah, I'm glad I'm going to bring it back to San Francisco because that's what this show's really for. Yeah, I mean, as I said, the reason they're putting Mason on IR is because they're cooked and they don't want to overpay because he's a restricted free agent. That's why they're doing it. And so Guerendo's getting this opportunity because of that. But this goes back to a lot of the other things we talked about. Like as the season gets, I mean, it's going to be weird if the Jets do this with players or the Dolphins, and there's a lot of teams that aren't in it right now anymore. And so, like, what happens? What happens when CeeDee Lamb sits weeks 16 and 17? What happens when? I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, how do we even predict this anymore? How do I draft a player anymore? Now I got to worry about, can the team even win? This might become a big component going forward. Is like, what's the likelihood? Like, if you're evaluating a player like CeeDee Lamb, and you're like, okay, all things are equal. Now I got to factor in the likelihood of having a winning team. Because if he doesn't have a winning team, he's got a higher percentage of somehow sitting out week 16, 17, whatever. I mean, it's going to be something we have to consider.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, you called it at the beginning, and we all pretty much agreed with you. The longer IU stood out, and it happened with Debo, it happened with other players, and what happened? IU gets injured, and now everybody, the backs are getting injured. I mean, San Francisco's just an injury pool of players every year. And I'll let you go, but I just want to know towards the end of the show or whenever, if you get a chance, what is your thoughts about tonight's game with fantasy-wise with Cleveland and the Broncos? What do you think is going to happen there?
Cleveland Broncos. I think Broncos are just gonna. I don't know if I'll say crush them but I think maybe it'll be a close first half, but I think the Browns get outmatched, and it just becomes a Bo Nix show. I really think Bo Nix just continues to thrive. And the great part about Bo is he's getting on his horse, to the point where he's not hitting any wall. He started to progress at the perfect time. I don't know. Bo Nix looks fantastic. He's a baller.
It's going to be more of a low-scoring game because they both got, you can't deny it, they both got top defenses. I'm just wondering if it's going to be fantasy-wise, if it's going to be good or not to play any of their players.
Yeah, well, I think because Denver's got a good rush D too. So I don't know that the Browns can establish a run, which I think is going to flip back and make it tough for them to. It's going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be a rough day. Who knows? Anything can happen. It's football. It's crazy.
Right.
But yeah.
All right, bro. Thanks.
All right, later.
I'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it. Later. Okay, TJ, appreciate you with the super chat. I got all these supers. We'll get out of the way here real quickly. Pick 2, rest of season, Brooks, Braylon, Guerendo. Braylon and Guerendo, because of their impact, their ability to smash Richard. They're definitely, and if we go back, we got to make sure, Mason's now out for the year, so he comes off this board, and Guerendo becomes the clear Akine is still the top wide receiver pickup of the week. But Guerendo becomes the clear top running back pickup and the top overall pickup. Jonu's going to probably come off this list over in the corner because he's barely available in enough leagues to even qualify for this type of board anymore. But just know that Jonu, if he's there, needs to be grabbed. Him and Guerendo have almost similar value if you need a tight end. So Guerendo is an absolute smash going forward. But so is, Braylon Allen and Corum. They're all still very, very solid ads that can help you. But yeah, I mean, it's cuffing season, and Smitty called it. Thank you, Bone. Appreciate you. TJ, best keeper league option, JJ, Achan, or Bowers. Still JJ, but, Bowers is climbing, but I don't know if I'll put him right next to JJ, but he's in the second round. Like, would anybody take Bowers in the first round in 2025? I think that's too high. I'm not saying we're going to get a repeat of Laporta, but you got to be careful. You can't overextend. And I think second round is extending enough. Not dangerous, and I wouldn't do it in every league, but first round would be a little reckless. JJ's a first rounder. So, yeah, don't take Bowers in round one. I know it feels like it's a huge advantage, and it is, but the hit you take at the other positions is going to pull that advantage away and kind of wash it, so you got to be careful. But I've seen a lot of people say that they think he's a first rounder, and I'm like, if he climbs there, then I won't be drafting him in the first round. But I love him, and I love him in round two. But we got to be careful. We can't overextend. Excuse me. I'll try and mute. I'm sorry. I just sometimes I can't control it. Drop either Hopkins, BTJ, or Debo for Guerendo. For those that are wondering, yes, we caught the pandemic, the 19 at the house. Again, this is the third time I've had it. Maybe we need to put how many days has Smitty not had COVID for? See, like those, how many days since an injury's happened at the workplace? Maybe we need to have a board for that. Drop either Hopkins, BTJ, or Debo for Guerendo. I don't know if there's got to be a better solution than that, bro. I mean, I guess with Trevor Lawrence out, probably would be BTJ. That whole train derailed a little bit, but I don't know that I want to drop him. I would hope you have a different option, but if not, then I guess. Who's winning tonight? Broncos or Browns? Broncos. TP31. Hindsight is 2020. What cuff should I have dropped instead to keep Guerendo? I mean, yeah, TP. I mean, I understand. I get. But if you have all those running, you literally have all of those starters. I guess it would probably be. If looking back, I probably would have said Sharps just because. I mean, in this situation, if you have all those starters, you probably are one of the few people that might have been on Guerendo watch. But if I had to choose one of these guys, I'd say Sharps just because they're not looking good offensively anyway in terms of running the football. You know what I mean? Even with their starter. But you can't beat yourself up if you're in a weird spot. Everyone, please smash the like button for Smitty. Thank you, Joshua. Appreciate you. Curry, clinched playoffs, down 18.5 points with Denver D to play. Don't have Fab to get Isaac Guerendo. Do I drop Denver D for Patrick Taylor? We do need to make sure we pick up Patrick Taylor Jr. too in some cases. I mean, we definitely need to look into it. Because guess what? Guess who's now Guerendo? Patrick Taylor. So we can't fall asleep now and just think, oh, we got the only guy. He is. Guerendo's getting the go-ahead, but Patrick Taylor will be used as well. They'll sprinkle them both in. And if Guerendo gets banged up, then Patrick Taylor becomes the Guerendo. So it doesn't stop. The work doesn't stop. So know right now that I'm telling you that if you can secure both of them, you probably want to do that as well. I'm going to pick up Patrick Taylor probably in every league. So, we'll just swap out the backup situations and put it, in the new order because that's what it is. Don't have Fab Denver D before the game. Can you pick up you can pick him up before the game, though, given that he's already played. I don't know that. Can you really do that? I don't know that you can in almost any league I know. But if you could, I guess I would. You never know, though. 18.5 points, who knows? You know what? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe no one's going to pick him up. Maybe you just try and get Patrick Taylor. Or is there somebody else you can drop, Curry? I don't know. Chat, what would you do? What would you do, guys? For my underdog pick tonight, I mean, I don't know that I have a ton of them other than I really like the higher 1.5 TDs for Bo Nix. Any INT for Winston would be preferable. If the Niners pack it in, get Jonnu over Kittle. If the Niners pack it in, get Jonnu over Kittle. I don't know if they'll pack it in entirely. You know what I mean? Like I guess I'd rather have Jonnu right now. Yeah, I think I would. I think most people would. Had CMC, Rico is on the wire. Is he worth the running back 2 spot? I think he's worth grabbing for sure. I don't know about calling a running back 2, but he's definitely worth grabbing. Smitty, thoughts on CJ Stroud for fantasy next season and the O-line? CJ Stroud has looked rushed this year. Thoughts on Dell too? I'm kind of in a holding pattern on judging this for 2025. I think he's a capable quarterback. I don't think we were wrong in assessing him, but he certainly doesn't feel like he's that good right now. So right now I'm going to say he's not a top 6 quarterback, but is he capable of returning to that? Yeah, but, you know, obviously something derailed his sophomore year, is a sophomore slump for sure. Yeah, so... And I think Dell, same thing. We can't judge Dell too harshly, but we also can't believe in him either. You know, it's like a catch-22. It's a double-edged sword. You know, we can't trust Dell. It's not his fault, but we still can't trust him. I mean, it is what it is. You know, I should have listened to you last night. Guerendo was on the wire, slipped. It's all right, bro. Appreciate you. Silver says Bowers 18-30 is where he'd rank him. Bowers ain't no TD dependent. Laporta, says Silver. KJ says, what's KJ say? I own Mason and did not listen to Smitty and picked up Guerendo, picked up Braylon Allen instead. Well, I still like Braylon Allen a lot, bro. Should I try and grab Patrick Taylor in hopes? I would. I you know, just depends. Don't drop Braylon Allen, though, because he might. Look, Breece Hall retweaked his knee. Like, we don't know what his status is going to be. You know, we'll keep tabs on that. We'll come back. We got more news. We'll come back at 8 p.m. I'll see you guys back at 8 p.m. Yeah, I'll be back at 8 p.m. Appreciate you all.